Hi, and Happy New Year. I'm Sue Resig, and we haven't had a recipe in a while, and it's 2021, and it's time to be thinking differently about how we eat and taking care of ourselves. This is a recipe for two different ways to make a ground beef, a vegan ground beef. Obviously, it's not going to have any beef in it, and it's not going to have any processed products in it, which is one of the things that if you go to the store looking for a vegan source of ground beef or something like a beef or a sausage, it has a lot of processed ingredients. And processed ingredients really aren't good for you. They may not be as bad for you as eating animal products in terms of inflammation, but they're still not necessarily good for you. Your body knows the difference between whole food and a processed food. And I'd like to introduce you to two ways to make a good vegan ground beef. Now, the first is using French green lentils. Now, French green lentils are available typically at your local grocery stores. And you may say, well, gee, I can't get French green lentils. I can only get green lentils. There is a difference. It doesn't come out the same if you use the green lentils. You really need the French green lentils. And the reason for that is because of their small shape and their firm texture. The texture comes out with more of a chew, like a ground beef, okay? Now, if you live in an area where you have access to an Indian grocery store, maybe you have Indian restaurants in the area, typically there'll be an Indian grocery nearby an Indian restaurant. And if you have Indian restaurants, check into this, because there's another kind of lentil called urid dal or urid split. That just means the little bean has been split. And it's a funny bean, matpe, M-A-T-P-E. I don't know any equivalent to this in English. This is strictly an Indian product as far as I know. But we do have an Indian grocery in our area. And I like to go in and pick up something different because they have so many different beans and lentils that are available in our grocery store. And variety is very good for us. The more variety we have, the healthier our body is, because we get just different phytonutrients from different foods, you know. So I like to check it out. And I got this, I cooked it. I thought, wow, what an interesting texture. It's definitely different than the French green bean. And I do use the two of them differently, but I prepare them the same, okay? So let me get you started with how I prepare these lentils. I start with 1 cup of lentils, just 1 8-ounce cup of lentils. I don't weigh it, I just measure it. It's an 8-ounce cup. I measure it, I rinse it under running water, make sure it's clean, and then I add that 1 cup of lentils to a saucepan and add 2 cups of water. 1 cup lentils, 2 cups of water. Now let me take you to my stove and I'll show you what I put in. Okay, I'm over here at the stove. I'd already put my lentils in with the water, and I'd started them to cook when I thought I need to let you know how I'm making these. So to this cooking water, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of Montreal steak seasoning. Now, this is your prerogative. You can go to the store and you can buy Montreal steak seasoning. That's up to you. I tried it and it doesn't sit well with my system. I don't like how I feel after I've eaten store brand Montreal steak seasoning. There's something in it, you know, when it says and spices, and there's all those, you know, you don't know what mysterious things they've put in there. So I make my own Montreal steak seasoning. I just went online and Googled Montreal steak seasoning recipe and make my own. And that way I know what's in it and I can tolerate it. So I put 1 tablespoon of my Montreal steak seasoning in there. And I add a 1/2 teaspoon of fennel seed. This gives it a little bit of a sausagey flavor. And this is especially good in that urid split dal that I showed you, the one from the Indian store. I'd have to say the urid split has almost more of a sausage texture, okay? A little bit more of a spongy, chewy texture like sausage, whereas the French green lentils come out more like ground beef, okay? But I prepare them the same. I put the same seasonings in. And I'm going to put a half a teaspoon of dill seed, not dill weed. This is the seeds. They're kind of round and flat. You see, where are you? Here you go. Yep. There you go, flat seeds. And I put those in. And it's funny because this may not necessarily be how meat tastes, but these are the seasonings that they put on meat when they grill it. And if you use those same seasonings, it tends to make the food, it makes you think of the meat. So it's like when you use cinnamon, it makes you think something is sweet, because cinnamon and sugar usually go together in what you put it in. So if you just add a little cinnamon, it'll kind of naturally make you think sweet. Well, if you put this Montreal steak seasoning, the dill seed and the fennel seed in when you cook these lentils, it's going to naturally have a more meaty flavor to you. Now I'm putting it on to cook. I will bring it to a boil. I turn it down to simmer, and I simmer it for 20 to 25 minutes. Just kind of keep an eye. You'll know better with your own when you make it. You know, maybe take a peek at 20 minutes, and if there's still liquid in there, cook it a few more minutes, okay? So I'm going to get it going. And I like to use it in recipes that would normally call for ground beef. So the French green lentils, once they're done cooking, I can just keep that in the refrigerator. I use that 1 cup cooked as the equivalent of 1 pound of ground beef. It's the equivalent. So if I have a casserole that calls for ground beef, I'll have this made up and put this in place of the ground beef. I love to use that, either the French green lentils or the Urid split dal. I use that and make a really good homemade marinade. Well, it's not a marinara anymore if it's like with a meat, but it's a bolognese. I make a really tasty bolognese sauce using these lentils prepared like meat in the sauce, and it's really tasty. I should do that recipe for you sometime. So let's come back in about 20-25 minutes, and I'll show you how the lentils look. Okay, our lentils are done, and they're tasty. I don't know if you can see there. They just look like lentils, but boy, they taste delicious. They have a lot of good flavor, and it's just in time for my lunch. And I'm having one of my favorite lunches, which is cabbage, carrot, onion stir fry. Sometimes it's green cabbage, sometimes it's red, just depends what I have. And you can see, I just sliced up onion and cabbage and carrot, and I don't use any oil. I didn't need any water. I just kept putting I initially got it started kind of browning a little bit, but you don't want it to brown too much because then it starts to stick. And as soon as it started to brown, I put the lid on, turned it down, and let it simmer. And it's all that darkness that was on the bottom, the caramelization from the onions has come up. So we have a nice big scoop of my cabbage, carrot, onion stir fry. I'm going to take a scoop of my lentil hamburger and put that with my stir fry. And that's going to be a delicious meal, lunch or dinner. Not Gerson, sorry Gerson folks if you've been watching, not Gerson, but this is delicious whole food, high in protein, high in fiber, and full of phytonutrients and vegetables. Hope you give it a try, give it a thumbs up, and let me know if you did. Talk to you later.